Hey everybody, today we are going to make some Birria style tacos. The flavor of these tacos on a scale of 1 to 10 is about a 37. These things are absolutely incredible, and I can't wait to make these things again. The original recipe I found for this calls for it to be a dipping taco, but I'm just going to pour the sauce right over everything and eat them more like an enchilada than a taco. Here's a look at the ingredients we're going to need. Everything's really easy to find at the grocery store, but the spice, I found it at my Publix, no problem. I just had to do some looking for it. First, let's go ahead and start by chopping up our veggies. This dish originates from the Jalisco section of Mexico. That is a section on the west coast, west of Mexico City. It encompasses Guadalajara and Puerto Vallarta. I looked this definition up. It cracks me up. The term Birria means, quote, exquisite savory dish full of cultural and tradition. I don't know who wrote that, but it's kind of funny. Birria basically means that it's a taco made with stew meat. Traditionally, it's made with goat meat, but it can be made with beef in this case, or pork, but we're going with beef. Now, the key spice for this dish was made by Sazon, very popular spice brand. You can find that in pretty much any supermarket. But the specific spice, I'm going to slaughter the names here. There's 3 different names that it goes by. What they each mean, I don't know. I had to Google it. But it's marketed as Achiote, A-C-H-I-O-T. Achiote? I have no idea how to pronounce that. That's what the dish calls for. Well, that dish is also somehow, I don't know if it's a plant, different translation or what, I really can't figure it out. It also goes by the name Annatto, A-N-N-A-T-T-O. So if you can find either one of those, you are golden. I also came across the name Bijol, B-I-J-O-L. So if you can find any of those, you are golden. You might think it's a hot spice, but it's not. It's fairly mild. It does have a little bit of heat to it, but it's very mild, and the flavor of this is something I'll never forget. It is so amazing, so complex in its flavor. I wished I had known about this spice years ago. I would be cooking with it ever since. Now let's go ahead and add our enchilada sauce to our Insta Pot. Remember, the definition of a stew is a meat cooked in liquid. So we're going to add our enchilada sauce and about a cup of water. Go ahead and throw in your onions. Remember, we only need about a half an onion. The other half we'll be using a little bit later. And your bell peppers and your celery, just dump it right in. This dish is kind of interesting to me because it's clearly a Mexican dish. However, the base vegetables are a Cajun, quote, holy trinity: onions, bell pepper, and celery. And that's very, very similar to a French mirepoix, which is, of course, onions, celery, and carrots. So I find the combination very fascinating. Next, we're going to go ahead and cube up about 2 pounds of our beef stew meat. This is the other half of the beef roast that we made our a video on beef roast. So I'll put a link to that in the description. It's a really simple recipe, just if you want that hearty meat and potatoes beef stew. It's really, really good. So you want to cut these into about 1-inch cubes or so. And if you come across any hard cartilage or silver skin, go ahead and cut that off and discard. So go ahead and throw everything in your bowl, and then we're going to use 2 packs of that delightful spice. I'm not going to embarrass myself by trying to pronounce it. Just know you can find it at your grocery store. At my Publix, it was on the bottom shelf, plain sight. It's absolutely amazing. I can't wait to find more dishes to use this in. You can use a spoon, of course, but I would prefer to use my hands for 2 reasons. It gets everything mixed up really well, really fast, and you're kind of massaging the spice into the meat, much like when you do a rub on pork ribs. You're not actually rubbing it, you're really just patting it in. So this makes the spice get in contact with the meat really well. So next, just throw it in your Insta Pot. And try to get the lid on and turn it on pressure cook. Notice that we did not saute these pieces of beef. You can if you like, but it's not necessary, I don't think, in this case, because we've got so much spice covering them. But go ahead and set your pressure cooker for 50 minutes. And if you're new to an Insta Pot, notice how you just set it for the time and let go. It'll take about 20 seconds or so, and then it just turns on and starts to heat. After that, it'll take about 5 minutes for it to heat up enough to pressurize. In the meantime, go ahead and slice up your cilantro. Personally, I like a lot of cilantro. Set that aside, and the rest of your onions aside. You'll need them later. And we want to grate about 4 ounces of Monterey Jack. You could use other cheeses if you like here, but the Monterey Jack works really, really well. If you're wondering, one of those normal size blocks of cheese at the grocery store is 8 ounces, so shred about half of it. In all reality, I could shred the entire thing and still be fine. Now, when the 50 minutes is up on the pressure cooker, we're going to release the steam. You can just let it fall out of pressure. Naturally, it will cool off and be no longer pressurized, but 50 minutes is perfectly fine. There's the release valve on the right. There's the steam coming out. Use a spoon or something, because that is live steam and it will burn you. Next, we're going to scoop all of our stew meat out. It's fallen apart, and that is absolutely a good sign. If some of the veggies come out with it, that's perfectly fine too. We want to leave most of them in the sauce though. Now just take your fork and shred this to pieces. The finer the better. You can of course put this on a cutting board and chop it up, but why get your cutting board dirty when you don't have to? Now we get to construct our tacos. Nothing complicated here, just a layer of cheese and a layer of beef. There goes our wonderful cilantro and some raw onions. Be careful not to overstuff these because they're small. They just really don't hold as much as what you would like them to. Worst case scenario, you just make another taco. Here's where the magic starts to happen. Go ahead and throw a couple of pats of butter in your favorite pan. A larger non-stick pan works really well here, and go ahead and let that melt. We're going to brown the edges of our tacos, and it's going to create a crust that adds an incredible extra layer of flavor. Don't skip this step. It's worth the extra 5 minutes or so to do. Try not to let your filling ooze out like that. Stuff it back in. Just be careful, be patient. It's a little tricky of a step, but it's worth it. And notice how I'm pressing the tacos down in, and that is to make sure every bit of the surface is coming in contact with the hot butter in the pan to give it a good sear. Aren't those beautiful? After 3 or 4 minutes on each, you want to flip it to the other side. And meanwhile, we're boiling our sauce down, just doing a little bit of a reduction here. Nothing complicated. We're just boiling off a little bit of excess water. I wish you guys could smell the aroma here. It's absolutely delicious. Absolutely incredible. So there we go. After 3 or 4 minutes, we just want to flip our tacos. That one edge looks kind of burnt. That's not. It's just, well, actually, I guess it technically is, but it's still absolutely delicious. Nice and crunchy. There's nothing wrong with that right there. It's still good. Next, we're going to get to plate these up and eat them. It's my favorite part. So I am preparing 2 per serving, 2 per person. Nothing complicated here, just throw it on a plate, and then we are going to scoop out some of this amazing sauce. The original recipe called for this to be a dipping sauce. We're just going to pour it right over the tacos and eat these more like an enchilada than a taco. I wish you guys could smell this. I wish you guys, well, by all means, please cook it. It's an incredible dish. You will love it and want to cook it over and over again. Again, on a scale of 1 to 10, the flavor of this dish is about a 37. They are incredible. If you've enjoyed this video and want to see more, I ask that you please like the video and subscribe to our channel. and have a wonderful, amazing day.